Nice. I just remember, from Piptex, like I started seeing your ads. I
Yeah.
think it was after we met like a year ago, or if it
Yeah.
was 2 years ago. And it was you always in the video too, like
Yeah.
explaining, and like it was
That was
so
fun.
cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Like
did like how was yeah, so it was kind of like UGC, I guess. But
kind of, yeah.
those must gone well for
Y-
you, right?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Initially, we were thinking, okay, what kind of ads do we even want to produce? What kind of ads can we produce? And I think before going out and trying agencies and like seeing what they have in mind, I think it's always best to try and come up with a thing yourself first, and then basically see
Mm.
where your own limitations are without any biases, without any prior preconception about what is and what isn't possible. So we started just filming some ads. Like I filmed here in my spare room, bought a few tube lights, put a camera on a tripod with a little bit of like a clippy light on top, and then I shot some ads. And like the very top performing ads that we've shot weren't the ones shot on expensive camera equipment with like the fancy lights. It was the phone stand next, like whole like my phone being held by a cup, me filming myself with a lav mic in my hand, like stuff like this, you know. And I've watched your episode on UGC, and unfortunately I don't remember the name of your guest. But yeah,
Marco, yeah.
yeah, but it was. I think he was spot on when it comes to making sure that your UGC, that people are really living it, because if it's
Mm.
just a paid actor who shoots like 100 of those every month, then of course you wouldn't be getting a genuine reaction out of those people. So I think you just see is shifting more into, or at least for us, it's shifting more into like in-house content creators, or at least like working with a very limited amount of content creators, but then aiming for quality rather than quantity. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my
But I
take
feel
on
like
UGC.
if you do it yourself in the beginning, and obviously you know the part very well, and you use it, and
Yeah.
you've done like you know everything about it. So when you do content about it,
Yeah.
I guess it feels more real, because you can feel the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why it worked too.
Yeah.
But but when you do these kind of ads, should you just what can you think of, like if you think of the brands out there with, I don't know, 1 million euro revenue, like how can they start with these type of ads? What do you
Huh.
recommend them to do? Is it any kind of hooks they should need to think
Yeah.
about, or did you just record like, I know the product, let's just
Yeah.
brand a bit? Like, what was your plan there?
Where do we start and how much time do we have? I can talk about this for days. Okay, so the one thing that I've learned over time about Meta is that Meta will always reach the best people possible with the most relevant ad creative. So what you want to have is different types of ad creatives to target different kinds of people. Some people prefer statics. Some people prefer talking heads. Some people prefer product videos. Some people are watching Instagram Reels with sound on, or like using Instagram with sound on, some with sound off. I remember back when TikTok ads was starting to become a thing, I was in contact with a sales rep back then, and they sent me a presentation saying that what differentiated TikTok ads as a platform is that people were using TikTok with sound on. I think any brand would need to start with figuring out what kind of different ads can we shoot for different kinds of people. And then there is sort of this matrix of high production, low production, like the high quality ads or the shitty phone footage versus, and then you have the videos and then you have the statics. And then for any concept that you come up with, you could technically like immediately have 4 different ads. I don't know, like for us, let's say there's a video about the people hating one-to-ones. This is one of the ads that is performing pretty well right now. And then all of a sudden we can do like a high quality static, something with a product image cutout with a fancy quote inserted there. Another one could be literally taking a Sharpie to a Post-it note and taking a picture of that. That's a lo-fi static. And then there is, so we're working with a content creator who is shooting some really good stuff on really good equipment with high quality lights. He's a pro. But you can also see that in the type of creative that he produces. And then the other one is just us shooting it in-house with our phone, more or less the same scripts. And all of a sudden you have 4 different creatives out of one concept. And this also ties a bit into like how we do creative testing now. Yeah.
And would you say, do you think that's the ideal setup to have as a brand? Always have this kind of testing like that?
I mean, There, like they say that there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. This is what is working for us now. I mean, like, big shout out to the ads team. They are absolutely phenomenal. So the way that we're currently set up is we have 2 copywriters, one with a little bit more experience, one with a little bit less experience. We have a creative strategist who is basically now a mix of a media buyer and looking into ad performance and actually figuring out how do we need to iterate our ads? What kind of ads are we missing? What kind of ads do we need to shoot? And then we have a brilliant video editor who's able to put all of this together. We have people sourcing UGC content as well for us, not doing that as much anymore. But we're now actively hiring some more freelance, like semi-freelance, semi-in-house content creators who we can work with like throughout a longer period of time, and then get more ads from them. Yeah. So that is a pretty good setup.
Yeah, but do you think so? What's your revenue now? Do you think other brands with like 1 million your revenue should they have that much resources, or what's the most important thing to have in house to kind of do what you're doing now and what's working for you now? What's the minimum resource in you? What do you say?
I think that getting a very good video editor would be one thing, because the founding team would be able to shoot good ads, or at least learn how to shoot good ads by looking at, basically, whilst everyone else is watching Netflix, you have to be watching Facebook ads library and Foreplay. Just like go there, watch like all your competitors' ads, everything that is out there, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what's working. Then you need to hire a very good video editor who would be able to stitch everything together. And then what we also do for every single concept that we put out there, we're producing at least 3 hooks. So that every single video ad that we put out, we're testing it as a dynamic creative ad. So it's called DCO, Dynamic Creative Optimization, where we basically like any hook is more or less like a lottery ticket. When we're paying for ads, we are paying to reach a person and not for a person to watch the video. So basically we're paying for the chance so that someone watches. And the more hooks we have, the higher likelihood there is for the average person to watch more of the ad, because we don't know what exactly is going to work. So we are very closely looking at the hook rates for ads. Hook rates are, if you take, it's a custom metric that you can set up in Facebook ads, where you divide your 3-second video views divided by your total amount of impressions. And then you'll get a pretty good understanding of whether your hooks are actually attractive or not. So basically, this metric will give you the percentage of people who've watched the first 3 seconds. And a good benchmark would be like anything more than 25% or like 0.25 on this metric is considered, I would say pretty good. Anything below 15% is like you definitely need to rethink your hook. But then some members on our team have, like, I think the highest one that I've seen was 49% or like 48%, something crazy like this. But we've been starting to make it a game as like who can produce like the highest hook rate ad. And it started with like something ridiculous with like I clipped a microphone to a ball whisk, and then that all of a sudden had like 39, like 38% hook rate. And then it became a banana. And then another teammate, he clipped a microphone to a piece of bread. And then we had another, so our freelance content creator, he filmed a hook where like the top and bottom half of the video are different. So the top half is him talking, and the bottom half is him peeling a banana, but in reverse. So it looks like he's putting a banana back together. And people went just nuts for that. The ROAS on that ad wasn't the best, but the hook rate was probably the highest that I've ever seen. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So what?
Think about hooks.
But when you then, so what happens afterwards? So if you run a few tests and you see the hook rate is above, let's say 25%, what happens after that? And the ones under 50%, what do you do with them? Do you still run them? Yeah. What happens after you analyze?
So basically we are, so every time when we upload these new ads with 3 different hooks, Facebook will automatically choose the one that is the best. So there is sort of a survivorship bias by where Facebook is deciding to put the ad spend towards, which is pretty handy because it is quite hands off. And then basically what we do, depending on, of course, account structures, and now over the past few months, it has again changed. But in the case, if you have a, let's say, like a scaling campaign or some sort of like other environment in which you like that is different from testing, we take the exact ad ID and then we sort of promote the winning variant into a more scalable campaign that has a little bit more spend behind it. And the reason why we're taking the exact ad ID is because every single time when Facebook is gathering data for any ad, my current understanding is that all of the learning is being sort of applied to the ad level. And every iteration of the ad has a separate ID. Every separate ID also has their own unique comments, likes, shares, interactions, whatnot. So we take this exact variant out of the 3 or 5 or 10, whatever, and then we copy and paste this into our scaling campaign or into our prospecting campaign, into retargeting campaign, whatever. Yeah, and this is how we take the results. Like basically, we give Facebook as many chances as possible to succeed. Like we help them help us, and then we take whatever the algorithm, the magic decided, then we take that and scale it.
Okay, smart. But and if you look at the practical stuff, like your schedule, like on a week or on a month, like what's the timeline here? Like, do you do hooks every Monday, and then you like I'd love to hear a little bit about the practical stuff around this. How it could look like.
So we have meetings every Tuesday. It's a creative meeting with everyone on the ads team where we brainstorm new concepts. And every single week we have the meeting is divided into 2 parts. One is existing creative analysis, so that the team knows exactly what has been working and what hasn't. And even if it's just like a top level overview, over time, I think everyone will start to develop a sort of like a sense, like a feeling for what is and what isn't working. And after breaking down the performance, we're actually going into a brainstorming session where we talk about, let's say the workshop is about, okay, we need to come up with a certain number. Let's say like we want to come up with 3 creatives for one of the products because we, for example, have seen that this product is not getting enough ad spend anymore. And then we brainstorm ideas. And then on Wednesday, we start executing. And we have a backlog of things to iterate on. We have a backlog of things to produce. We have a massive Airtable that we use to basically automate the entire process of like all the way from the brainstorming all the way to the uploading to Facebook part. We've built quite an efficient system there. And in the ads team, I think the record from not too long ago was, I think, 20 ad sets in a week, which was too much. So we don't want to give the algorithm too much uncertainty, too many new ad sets. I'm still amazed that we've gotten to a point where we can confidently say, like, no, slow down. We have enough creative. Like, ask any brand out there. Like, everyone will tell you, no, we need more. And now we're like, no, you know what? We can focus on quality this week.
Yeah, because that's interesting. I hear a lot about that too. Like they always need to fill up when you case. But maybe it's because you also do a great job doing it in-house. I feel like many brands out there, they maybe are a little bit too dependent on a performance marketing agency, and they need to collect content either from the brand or just from other creators out there. So it's like too many teams involved. But do you think it's the reason why you do it so well or always have content is that you also put the effort yourself and do it in-house? Yeah. Or why do you think you have that luxury of having a lot of great content every week?
I think it came from a shift in mindset of how we see ads and how we see content and media. Everything, at least in e-commerce, is about content. Like even when I'm thinking, for example, of like when we develop new products, like I'm almost thinking with a hook in mind first. Like what is it that we can actually advertise? They say that first-time founders focus on products, second-time founders focus on distribution. So we're thinking with distribution in mind. And what I think really helped us change is understanding that we needed to become a media company in order for us to be successful in online ads, in YouTube content and whatnot. Every e-commerce company needs to become a media company, needs to take it seriously, because everyone else will just go past you with the greatest hooks, with the best ads, with the best content. And ultimately, how are people discovering most brands nowadays? It's through video, it's through social, it's through content. And that's why it's a little bit of a catch-22 when you said that, like, what kind of resource do you need at this scale? I'm thinking that if you want to scale beyond, then you need to have this in-house, because you need to develop your own feeling. Performance marketing agencies, think of them what you want, but their goal isn't to get you the best performance at the best cost. Their goal is to not get fired. So what I personally would love to see for companies to take things seriously and to take the things that are most crucial, take them in-house. It's fine to use them for a while whilst you're ramping up your own team, but ultimately media buying, or maybe not media buying, but the creative production, if it's possible to take it in-house, that's very helpful.
Yeah. And I'm guessing also now, or do you think certain products out there are just harder to create a lot of content and have the same pace as you? You can have, or is it just if you have a lot of ideas and you're great at it, you can probably do anything, even with just a dress?
I think that we are actually blessed by the fact that we have a product that we need to explain heavily. If we would be selling nail polish or lipsticks, it would be pretty straightforward, because you show it into the camera and then it's done. I recently saw an ad that was like a body lotion, but it had glitter inside. You didn't even need to explain anything. You just show it how it works, done. It's over. Like where the creative can really do the selling, and you can pretty much send people to the checkout. But since we have a product that really needs explaining, we were forced to learn how to do it in the most efficient way possible. For example, what we see is how important it is to pre-qualify your audience with the actual ad. So my understanding...
What's that?
So my understanding of how the Facebook, like basically how the meta algorithm works, is similar to how the TikTok organic algo worked, or probably still works. Let's say that you are into, let's say, horses. And then you are a brand new content creator who's never produced anything in the past, and you are creating a video about horses. You are not leaving any tags in there. You're not adding any keywords, but still somehow TikTok would be able to reach the perfect kind of audience. So what they do is they show your video to a representative sample of TikTok users in a given geography, and then they see who is stopping to keep watching your content and who is scrolling past. So if the first frame of your ad is a horse, then people who are into horses will probably keep watching, and those who aren't will probably scroll past. And then the algorithm would look at what type of audience profile interacted with your content and will create a lookalike audience from that. And that's and then again look at who interacted with that audience, and then expand it again, and then it does this breathing thing. And I think that especially since with Facebook ads, broad targeting has been the go-to targeting option for a longer time now. If you want to reach your specific buyer's buying profile, you need to make sure that you're talking to them in their language with their visuals in the first 3 seconds of your ad, ideally even in the first second. So for example, just like from recent memory from last week, we've had a new static creative, and like our target audience is like white collar knowledge workers, mostly office workers. And the ad that we had, it was a screenshot of a Slack notification. People who are using Slack will immediately recognize the layouts. They will immediately recognize the UI and how shitty it is to get like a Slack notification at like 9:58 from your boss saying something like, "Can you rotate the PDF for me?" And this is how you pre-qualify an audience. And because like the people who are not using Slack, they won't even like get what the notification is, will scroll past. And it's a range of this like subliminal messaging and like showing people on screen who are like your audience. So for example, if you have a product for an older audience, putting a 20-year-old in front of the camera, probably not the best idea, I would think. But sometimes it's also about just straight up calling people out. Like, if you are interested in influencer marketing, then blah, blah, blah. And this is how you make sure that your ads reach the audience that you actually want to reach. So yeah, that's what pre-qualification is.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's makes totally sense. Yeah, and I guess the algorithm works like that. Obviously, they will test and see who get hooked on your content, and then and then just find more people like them.
Exactly.
But you mentioned something before our call, like pricing bundles and offers. Obviously, when I hear offers, I feel like, and this is something I've heard also from people working with ads, like there always need to be some kind of like an offer, a discount to get, the sales that's kind of needed. And if you don't have that, it's so tough. But maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, like what do you mean with pricing bundles and offers?
When I say offer, I don't necessarily mean a discount or a special offer. To me, the offer is, what is it that you are selling to the customer, and what is the price versus also the perceived value of that product that you're selling. If you are selling a product, let's say for 100 euros, but people don't think it's worth that much, let's say people think it's worth 10 euros, then people will go out and say, oh, it's way too expensive. But if you sell it for 100, but then you add, I don't know, like some, I don't know, for an electrolytes company, you add a bottle that you usually sell for 50 euros, but it's like 250 to manufacture. All of a sudden, the perceived value of your bundle goes up. And then all of a sudden, the total bundle seems cheap in comparison. And this is the offer. What is it that you are offering to your audience? This is where my mindset shifted away from conversion rate optimization to offer optimization. Optimizing button colors the way that we used to do it like years ago, it doesn't really move the needle for us. So when we run a test, we want it to have the maximum upside. So we want it to be something that can really succeed. Changing a button text on a call to action could be like a 10% improvement, which is nice. But I want to take the sort of like the venture capital approach. I want to have like 10 tests, super high value. And if one of them doubles our conversion rate, great. So one thing that we did, which in hindsight is super obvious, we were sending people to very specific product-specific landing pages. And then from the landing page, we were directing people to a product detail page, PDP, as you usually do in e-commerce, with like all the different options, and then with a call to action, add to cart now. Great, fantastic. And then we're thinking, okay, like what can we do to increase our conversion rate? Or like what can we do to, like what would have a difference? And we added a third option, which is, well, we have the digital only product, we have the digital plus physical product, and then we added the third option, which is the everything bundle. Get everything at a super high cost, but you'll get everything. Well, super high cost compared to what they originally came to buy, and it worked. Our conversion rate went down a bit, but our average order value skyrocketed. And this is basically what offer designs are. I think that consumers in general tend to want to like not think. Like our brains are optimized to expand the least amount of brain calories to make a decision. So if you, for example, if you go to a restaurant and then you get a menu with 20 pages, I would ask, so what do you recommend? And the people would say like, oh, we recommend this. Okay, I'll take it. I don't want to expand my brain calories to make a decision. So the question to the brand owners out there, what is your single experience that people can follow? What's like the sort of
simplest,
like the path of least resistance for a customer to make the highest value purchase that there is? And I think a lot of companies are missing out on this. And why I'm talking about like the highest value offer, advertising is expensive. CPMs, like at least for us, they've doubled year over year. And if we want to retain the same, like remain this, like keep the same profitability levels or same revenue levels or whatnot, we need to become twice as efficient, right? Or we need to increase our average order value somehow. So basically, these are the levers that we can pull. And I think that a lot of brands are missing out on this. They can, like, even if conversion rate drops slightly, but their average order value goes up by 100%, that's great. That can turn a business. And all of a sudden, you can crank the dial on your ads and scale. Yeah, that's the short version.
Nice. Yeah, but I feel like now when you just explained that, I feel like I've been in that situation too, like where I get like different options, and I feel like just going to the ranch and golfing, when you're gonna buy these options where to get the balls, I'm always like, I cannot go with option one because that one is too expensive compared to how much I get. I just go with the final one, the more expensive one, but I get more. I feel at least I get more value.
And that's the most important thing. If you feel that you're getting more, this is what becomes reality. Yeah.
But then, but that's super interesting. So you can play around with your products, bundle them, and even think of the products that maybe, like you said, have obviously great margins. So you get the perceived value, and you bundle up with something with low margin. I'm just thinking like protein shakes, protein powder, like that is, I know that's very price competitive.
Yeah.
So I don't think they get too much on that, but maybe they can bundle up with other products.
Yeah, like add some creatine, add a shaker, add some like your tasting menu for your new bunch of electrolytes. So put everything in there. Usually sold for, let's say, 550 euros, and you can get it for just 3.99. Great. And I think that if brands want to get like from this 1 million to 10 million in revenue, it is important also to watch your cash. Not a lot of people in e-commerce talk about this, or at least like in settings like this. I think that one of the keys to scaling is to be first order profitable. And you do that by increasing the value of the first order at which the customer is converting. And this will help you feed your ads machine, like feed your ads flywheel. It will help you scale. It will help you order more products. So I think first order profitability is very, very important in e-commerce, at least.
What is, do we have numbers here too? Because I feel like a lot of brands out there, I think they lose a lot on the first customer, that then they just hope that they will come back after a month or two.
Yeah.
And that's if you have that type of product, like let's say protein. But can we think of any average order value that you like if it's less than this, it's kind of useless to even scale it, or is it hard to say like that?
It depends on how expensive it is to reach your audience. CPMs, they range widely depending on geography, depending on audience profile or average audience income, because like the more money your audience has, the more people are advertising or expending to reach them. So there's more competition, hence higher CPMs. But I'd say that a good AOV for the first order, at least what you should be aiming for, is 60 to 70 euros, around that range or higher. The higher, of course, the better.
And something I've heard from other brands is that if they want to go to a new market, they just test a few ad sets and see what works. Or in general, like, what do you think about when it comes to like scaling your business? If you, let's say you have 1 million revenue, like, should you focus on your home market and become 10 million euro in that market, or like when should you expand to the nearby markets? What makes sense here?
If the only reason for you to operate in your home market is the fact that you are there, that it just like happens to be your home market, I don't think that is reason enough. There's so much context, of course, around this, and I don't want to like oversimplify things, but if operationally you don't care where your product is stored, if you have a product with no shelf life, it is shelf stable, it is small, it is easy to ship, do you really care if you have a warehouse in Sweden or if you have a warehouse in Canada? So for us, we have 3 warehouses around the world and adding 2 more. We have 1 in the US, 1 in the Netherlands, and 1 in the UK, and adding a warehouse in Canada and Australia soon. when we order containers from our manufacturers, except for when we go and visit them, we don't ever see the products because these so-called 3PLs, third-party logistics providers, they're handling everything for us. Shopify order comes in, hits their system, and it's basically being automatically sent out from the proper warehouse. So if the only reason that you're operating in your home market is the fact that it's your home market, then I think you should definitely expand. If there are no other blockers, like on the regulatory side, for example, when it comes to supplements, for example, like we were talking about protein, there's probably some other regulation of like what needs to be written on the packaging when you're in the US versus if you're in Europe. Some food coloring options that are legal in one country and not legal in the other. So there's, of course, context to it. But if you can, internationalize. Also, because from experience, Facebook isn't really a top of funnel platform. It is like Facebook's best interest is to give you the cheapest conversions possible. So in any market, so I'm based in Germany, and if I would be operating just in Germany, Facebook would, let's say, start with the 1% of people on Facebook or on Instagram that have the highest likelihood of conversion. And let's say that I am hitting my target CPAs. But then Facebook needs to find new audiences, so expand beyond this 1%. And then things become more and more and more and more expensive. So rather than trying to penetrate your market further and increase your cost, you could expand into the neighboring market. And all of a sudden you have a completely fresh audience where, again, you have this 1% available to you. So what we did, we are now completely global. We don't have any restrictions as to where our products go, at least where our warehouses are able to ship to. This is where we do ship products to. And it's been one of the biggest changes for us. So our home market is the UK, and now the UK makes up 10% of our revenue.
But when does it trigger on you? Like, when do you feel like, oh, now we need to go to the next market? Is it when you feel like it's becoming too expensive where you just started? Or obviously there's other reasons to go to the next market, but is that the thing? Like when you feel like now it's too competitive to get the rest of the Germany?
I would just start doing that at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like if I were to start a company, I would start in the US first, because it is the largest single language or like single accessible market to start in. Like if you want to start one market, start in the US. I don't have any experience in launching products in China, so unfortunately I cannot speak to that, but starting in the US is generally a good idea. And then expanding into other English-speaking markets, which is also super easy. Like shipping to Canada from the US, it's pretty straightforward. Even sending products, like if you have a high margin, sending products from the US to Australia, also technically possible. And of course, like at some point, you'll reach a point where like, okay, we'll probably need a warehouse in Australia. But yeah, so these are at least my thoughts. If you're a European company and you have a website in English, in Europe, a lot of people speak English. You and I both do. English isn't our native language, but we operate it on a daily basis, and we see ads in English. Like I would assume, like you also see them all the time.
Yeah.
So if you have an English website and a fulfillment center somewhere in Europe, you can ship anywhere in Europe. So why limit yourself to your local market?
Yeah, true. But when it then comes to the point you mentioned, like, okay, you do your ads, you do everything in your, let's say, home market or just one market, and you feel like, wow, now the cost is just increasing because we kind of already touched on all the juice out there, and now we getting the harder stuff. Like, what can you do to lower the cost? Do you have any? Yeah, what are the things you can do, the tools out there you can use to lower the cost so it's not becomes higher and higher CPM for every year? Or maybe this is impossible. I don't know.
Yeah.
What have you done? Let's say you see the increased cost for the German market.
Yeah.
You see that the CPM is just becoming higher and higher.
Yeah.
What can you do except of just going to France? If you want to stay on that market and want to make that more profitable and scale in that market, what can you do to lower the CPM or just in overall the ad spend or the ad cost, I guess?
I think there is a couple of techniques what you can do to, in the short term, boost your performance a little bit. So if you think of your funnel, you'll always have some number of people who are like almost ready to buy. This is your bottom of funnel. Then the middle of funnel is the people who are sort of kind of aware of your product. They visited your website, like they're aware of you, maybe will buy in the future. And then the top of funnel is the people who are like completely fresh to you, like never heard of you, never interacted with you. Like to oversimplify. At any given point, when you're advertising, you are reaching all three stages of the funnel. So you're always feeding the mechanism. You are trying to attract new audiences, and then you're trying to educate them more about your product in the middle, and then trying to convert them at the bottom. There is a campaign type on Facebook called cost caps. Cost caps is a tool where you tell Facebook exactly how much you want to pay to convert a customer. And then Facebook will go out and see what they can do. And if they can't, then they won't spend the budget. If they think they can, then they will. But this will just bleed your bottom of funnel dry. So what will happen, this is what agencies love to do. They come in, set up your cost caps, and all of a sudden they start performing so nicely. They're like, oh yeah, we're delivering results. But then in 2 months, 3 months time, all of a sudden, when you're dry and like your cost caps don't have anyone to reach anymore, you're sitting there like, okay, what happened? So you always need to balance this. Cost caps are also a great tool to use in combination with influencer marketing, for example. So what we do, we have a cost caps campaign with like on every ad set level, we're splitting out our ad sets by product. So we know what our target CPA is for every single product. So I set it at 10% higher than my target CPA because Facebook isn't reporting all conversions, but most. So I set it 10% higher than my target CPA, and then I inflate the budget. My daily budget on that campaign is £20,000 right now. Sometimes it's spending 4,000 to 5,000. Most of the days it's spending like 8-9 grand. But on some days it's spending the 20 because Facebook has found the pocket of customers who are willing to convert at that CPA. So what happens, for example, if you have like sort of your business as usual and you have your steady revenue numbers, and then all of a sudden you have a large influencer campaign, let's say like a couple of them, huge number of followers, how do you scale your ads? Like on Facebook, like just doubling the budgets and seeing what happens, that like this will, in most of the cases, well, depending of course on your spend, but it could reset your learning phase. It could introduce a lot of uncertainty into the algorithm, especially like if you have a well-trained number of ad sets. But your cost caps campaign, it scales automatically if Facebook sees, okay, there's interest for the product. So if you're running influencer marketing, having a backup cost caps campaign that auto scales with your influencer spend is pretty helpful to have.
That's a cool strategy. I know like the thing I hear always is like we run influencer marketing ad and paid ads a lot at the same time. We feel like they're kind of working together. But I guess that's a concrete example of how you can do it. But as a like a final point, obviously you've done so much, you know, the product, you've done the ads, you've done the hard work, and you've done the high level management too. So what do you have any tips for the founders out there? Something that you always see when you look at other ads, like, oh, why are you doing that? Skip that, do this. Is that like overall, like any advice that you always share and would like to share with their founders?
The most important part, and this is where I always start when I'm working with any ecom founders, the first thing that I'm trying to get to, at least like if we're talking about Facebook ads, I'm looking at the data that you are sending over to Facebook, because Facebook, it's a black box. We don't know how Facebook is optimizing. However, what we can say is that if Facebook has better information, then Facebook can make better decisions on who to reach. So what you definitely need to do is you need to go into your events manager and see and check out what your event match quality, EMQ, is for each and every event that you have. You definitely need to use Conversion API if you aren't already. I really hope that everyone is who is listening to this. If you aren't using Conversion API, do it. It will immediately help your account. What we've noticed is that our event match quality, basically, so event match quality means that for every purchase that is made on any sort of Shopify website or on our Shopify website, we are sending the information about the purchase over to Facebook. And then Facebook is trying to match this information with a Facebook account who may or may not have seen the ad. And if they find a match, they're like, oh, this sale came from this ad. Great, we can learn from it. We can improve the machine. If you aren't sending this information, then Facebook can't really make proper optimization choices. So you need to make sure that you're sending as much information as possible. Maybe a little bit technical, but so end of August, I think August 25th, Shopify will roll out a feature, they call it a feature, called checkout extensibility, which basically means for advertisers that a lot of the scripts that are currently firing in your checkout, they will stop firing in your checkout. So we have upgraded to checkout extensibility earlier than the deadline to see what happens. And what happened is that some of the parameters just stopped firing altogether. The pixel, the native Facebook pixel with a native Facebook integration, it didn't fire for some events anymore. Some parameters just weren't being sent at all. So for example, when we're sending conversion data to Facebook, we're sending the product name, the value, the customer email address for them to match it. But then we're also sending the country so that Facebook knows from which country the sale came from. And for some odd reason, Facebook's native Shopify integration stopped doing that. So they weren't sending the country information anymore. Our event match quality went down. And we've tried everything. Like we were chatting to our account manager and he was like, I don't know, try a new pixel. Like if your account manager tells you to try a new pixel, you know you're fucked. So I did try a new pixel, but how do you run two pixels at the same time? So we're using an analytics tool, like a session enrichment thing called Elevar, and I'm not being paid by them. I basically set up Elevar to send the same duplicated data, the same data, but to another pixel to see maybe there's like some issue in training our pixel. And then all of a sudden, I log into the pixel after a week and I'm seeing more events on the new pixel compared to our old. And then I look deeper. I look at the purchase events. Like, how come our event match quality on our own old trained pixel is 7.6 and the new pixel is 8.7? Like, it's a significant increase for the purchase event. Then I started digging deeper. And it turns out that Elevar was able, like they're sending the country information along with the purchase, and Facebook's native integration didn't. They're sending the Facebook click ID, and sometimes Facebook doesn't. And once we switched, our performance improved immediately. So for anyone who already switched to checkout extensibility, wondering what the fuck is going on, install Elevar, or I think Triple Whale also just came up with Sonar, I think it's called. I think it's something similar, but we're using Elevar, and you'll see your numbers going up immediately. It is pretty straightforward to set up if you are somewhat technical.
Wow. But do you think is it because Shopify just kind of do this only for Meta or Facebook?
No,
or why do you think it's a different?
They are so they're calling it a security feature so that some of the scripts aren't firing anymore in the checkout. So there's like basically browser, like front end based. So what they're relying on more now is app integrations directly with Shopify, with the Shopify API, which makes sense. So I think that one of the major trends that is happening now, at least in the analytics world, is that more and more people will need to rely on first party data. So rather than just relying on cookies, which may or may not go away soon. They've been delaying, like Google has been delaying this for, I think, multiple years in a row now. But they will probably go away at some point, and first-party data will be the only thing that you have. The other thing that is super important, I think, to optimize ads is to use some kind of first-party attribution tool. So we're using Triple Whale with they have their own algorithms trying to basically like match purchases to our ad channels. But what we have is a post-purchase survey that is integrated into Triple Whale. And right after each purchase, our customers are being asked, where did you hear about us? more than 50% of our customers actually click on the button, fill out the survey, and it's in the background, it helps us match ad spend to what the customer is actually saying the touch point was. And this has also helped us tremendously.
And I can imagine they should, like, if you do a lot of influence marketing, maybe can you add like the option of like even giving them the option, like, is it from Kamushka or
Absolutely.
whatever influencer name?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's also possible. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah,
But cool.
But yeah, I can talk about this for days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know a lot. Like maybe we should even record a new episode about another angle on this. But yeah, thanks for sharing all this. I feel like
Of course.
the more I hear, I feel like, wow, I don't know if I could even ever start an e-commerce brand because there's so much to think about. But I love also the simplicity of like just shooting videos, get started, going international day one. Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
and I think
thanks.
I think the biggest takeaway for the listeners here, I think, would be it isn't rocket science. Like it seems super difficult to the outside, but once you're in there, once you've tried it yourself once, even launching on the US market, it's not that difficult. Yeah. And I think everyone, like if we could figure it out, everyone else can figure it out. We're not that smart. It's only about execution. I really believe that. I think that ideas don't matter. The only thing that matters is good old execution, putting some blood, sweat, and tears behind it, and everything will work out.
I totally agree. Yeah.